This video is a bit off topic for a channel that usually talks about disturbing movies and documentaries. However, after dealing with endless monetization issues, copyright claims, and occasional policy violations, I want to take a small revenge. YouTube can be incredibly strict when it wants to be, yet some of the most disturbing content on the platform remains untouched for years and still attracts millions of views. Today on Top 2 Day, we're going to explore the 10 darkest, strangest, and most disturbing corners of YouTube that, for some reason, still exist in 2026. Some of the topics we'll cover are disturbing, some are simply outrageous, and some might even make you take the iPad away from your kids. Anyway, throughout this video, you'll keep asking yourself, is this really on YouTube? To prove it, let's start with number 10. Have you ever heard of MMD content? MMD, or Miku Miku Dance, is a free animation program created in 2008. It was originally designed so fans could create simple dance videos using characters from anime, video games, and Japanese pop culture. It was initially created for the Japanese Vocaloid character Hatsune Miku, the same holographic singer that a Japanese man married. The peak of MMD's popularity came around 2012. Many of the videos are genuinely well made. The songs are catchy, and videos like this are still fun to watch. But once you dig deeper into the community, you realize that when you add rating 18 after MMD, you'll discover an entire subculture built around modified character models, custom animations, and increasingly suggestive content. It's a hidden YouTube niche that generates millions of views and has existed on the platform for years. There are thousands of these videos available on YouTube. Some of them absolutely belong on the Orange website, and some would probably be removed even there. Yet they still somehow remain on YouTube. The irony is that I can't show you content that is already on YouTube. And it's not even about monetization, it's about violating YouTube's policies. It looks like creators of this type of content have somehow found a loophole by presenting their videos as having an artistic context. Maybe the goal isn't just to create this content, but to successfully upload it to YouTube in the first place. To be fair, most MMD creators have nothing to do with R18 content. The majority of videos are simply fan-made dances, music videos, and animation projects. The strange part is not that MMD exists, but that an entire subculture has managed to survive on YouTube for years. Moreover, there are thousands of videos, and many new ones are uploaded every single day. Compared to some of the darker entries later on this list, MMDR18 is more bizarre than horrifying, at least until you imagine a child accidentally discovering it. Let me ask you a question. How long have you been using YouTube? 5 years? 10 years? Maybe even since the platform first launched? Then tell me this. Do you know what appears when you type Nude Yoga into the search bar? If you never tried it before, you probably shouldn't, because what you'll find is one of the strangest loopholes that has existed on YouTube for years. Hundreds of videos present themselves as educational yoga content, while in reality, many of them are anything but educational. The creators demonstrate stretches, breathing techniques, and exercise routines while explaining the benefits of flexibility and physical fitness. I remember first hearing about this niche at least 10 years ago, and somehow it's still thriving in 2026. YouTube, in turn, gains a reliable audience interested in this type of content, and for some reason, continues to allow it on the platform. Over the years, YouTube has also become home to countless channels built around nude photography, body painting, artistic modeling, and various forms of artistic expression. According to YouTube's own policies, nudity may be allowed when presented in an educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic context. As a result, entire channels have learned how to operate within that gray area. Some of these videos attract millions of views, and while many are genuinely focused on art or photography, I'd say around 20% of them still seem to cross the line. I hope YouTube isn't going to delete this video after the first two topics we've covered, but I'm curious what you think. Does content like this deserve to stay on YouTube? While you're writing your comment, let's move on to the next problem. You've probably already heard of the dead internet theory. In short, it's the idea that a growing portion of online activity is no longer created by real people, but by bots, automated systems, fake engagement, and, increasingly, artificial intelligence. The theory itself is controversial, and no, the internet isn't literally dead. But when you look at modern social medias, it's not hard to understand why so many people find the idea believable. Even on this channel, you can hear an AI voiceover. You might think I'm a bot, but I'm a real human behind the script. Look, I can even solve a few CAPTCHAs. Millions of people assume that every comment, every like, and every opinion they see online comes from a real person. But over the years, investigators have uncovered networks of automated accounts, coordinated troll farms, and influence campaigns designed to shape public opinion on a massive scale. And since this is a channel where we usually talk about movies and documentaries, I think the best way to introduce this topic is through two films that covered similar problems: The Social Dilemma and Agents of Chaos. But let's take it step by step. Most people imagine bots as obvious spam accounts posting random links. In reality, modern bot networks can be far more sophisticated. One of the most famous examples was the exposure of the Internet Research Agency, a Russian troll farm that became widely known after investigations into interference surrounding the 2016 US election. That is exactly what Agents of Chaos is about. After watching the documentary, you'll understand how large groups of fake accounts were used to spread political content, amplify division, and create the illusion that certain opinions were far more popular than they actually were. Even now, in 2026, there are tons of political bots and coordinated comment campaigns all over the internet. But bot farms are only part of the problems. The Social Dilemma focused on a different problem: algorithms. The documentary argued that modern platforms are no longer passive websites. They actively learn what keeps our attention, what makes us angry, what keeps us scrolling, and then feed us more of it. If political bots influencing public opinion have already become the norm, and most people simply accept that bots are everywhere, then the way algorithms target individual users and keep them hooked on social media is more relevant than ever. And in 2026, it's worth understanding how these systems can influence not only you, but the people around you as well. So I recommend checking out at least The Social Dilemma. And if you know any other great documentaries about bots, troll farms, or online manipulation, don't forget to share them in the comments. It's time to talk about a genuinely disturbing corner of YouTube. Fortunately, things have improved in recent years, but the problem hasn't disappeared entirely and will probably never disappear completely. After all, some people are willing to do almost anything for views. I'm talking about fake animal rescue videos. Most of the channels involved in this trend have already been removed from the platform. Channels such as Animal Lighthouse, Happy Dog, Animal Shelter, and many other popular animal rescue channels were eventually taken down. To cut a long story short, they placed animals in dangerous situations and then uploaded videos showing dramatic rescues that generated millions of views. Fortunately, most channels associated with this type of content have now been removed. However, there are still exceptions. Bass Fishing Productions is a YouTube channel created in 2015 that focuses primarily on fish and aquatic animals. Over the years, it has accumulated more than 878 million views. The charismatic host usually shows children and teenagers unusual fish, supposedly discovered in unusual places. In numerous videos, rare fish conveniently appear in locations where they would have little chance of naturally surviving. The creator then finds them and presents the discovery as if it were completely unexpected. In some uploads, the creator searches through trash zoo stores containers and somehow finds large numbers of live animals abandoned inside, expensive and rare animals. The fans, mostly children and, from what I can tell, their parents, don't seem to see a problem with it. They trust the creator and regularly thank him in the comments for rescuing animals. Unfortunately, if you check more of his videos, you will understand that he is buying fish and then throwing them into specific locations so he can later rescue them. For example, one of the videos on the channel claims that the creator discovered numerous exotic fish inside a pet store's dumpster. Comment sections fill with people demanding that the stores be exposed and punished. As you may have already guessed, the creator never revealed the names of the stores, nor did he appear to file any complaints against them. If someone is repeatedly finding rare animals in the perfect place at the perfect time, perhaps the person placing them there is the same person holding the camera. Just imagine for a moment if the same thing was happening with puppies or kittens instead of fish. What do you think? Is this content perfectly acceptable? Or has the pursuit of views and millions of dollars pushed the creator a little too far? Now we're talking about a problem that every single one of us has experienced at some point: YouTube ads. If you've been using YouTube for years, you've probably noticed one thing. There seems to be more advertising than ever before. Longer ad breaks, multiple ads before videos, sponsored segments, product placements. Without premium, it sometimes feels like the platform is becoming one giant commercial. But the amount of advertising isn't what makes this rabbit hole interesting. Over the years, users have reported seeing scam investment schemes, fake celebrity endorsements, miracle health products, AI-generated misinformation, and outright fraudulent advertisements. Some of them accumulated millions of impressions before eventually being removed. I personally remember a time when YouTube actively displayed ads for questionable online stores selling certain products that were banned in many countries. I think you understand what I'm talking about. The picture becomes even more disturbing when we start talking about sponsorships and the way children consume advertising without even realizing they're being advertised to. One of the most famous examples was Ryan's World. At its peak, the channel generated billions of views and earned tens of millions of dollars by showing a young child opening toys, playing with toys, and reviewing toys. Problem was that a huge portion of the channel's content, maybe around 90% of all videos, revolved around branded toys, product placements, and sponsored promotions, while many young viewers were simply too young to understand that they were being advertised to. The disturbing part isn't that advertising exists. Advertising has always existed. The disturbing part is how difficult it has become to recognize it. If this topic interests you, I highly recommend the first episode of Century of the Self. It tells the fascinating story of Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud's nephew, the man many consider the father of modern public relations, and one of the people who fundamentally changed how advertising influences human behavior. Bernays was one of the first people to apply Freud's ideas on a mass scale. He realized that people could be persuaded to act irrationally if a product was connected to their emotions, desires, and subconscious impulses rather than to logic or practical needs. And more than 100 years later, advertisers are still using the same principles, only with far more data and far more powerful tools. The next time you watch a video, ask yourself a simple question. Are you watching content, or are you watching a commercial disguised as entertainment?
What the fuck is this?
These are ASMR videos you can easily find on YouTube. They are obviously very popular, and you may be wondering why I'm placing them higher on this list than the MMD content or Nude Yoga we discussed earlier. The reason is simple. Unlike most of the previous topics, this content is available to viewers of all ages. And some creators have gradually transformed ASMR from harmless relaxation videos into something that feels like relaxation on the Orange website. Today, it isn't unusual to find thumbnails featuring provocative poses and exaggerated facial expressions. The actual content feels much closer to a form of softcore entertainment than anything intended to help people sleep. And unlike the topics we discussed earlier, most of this content requires no special search terms, no hidden communities, and no rabbit holes. It is recommended directly by the algorithm and can easily appear in front of younger audiences. I don't want to sound like a moral crusader. I'm not against this type of content, and I understand that many people enjoy it. What concerns me is the fact that content like this is accessible to viewers of all ages. So what do you think? Am I exaggerating, or is this an area where YouTube is simply not doing enough? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you noticed something? It's been a while since we talked about documentaries. Let's fix that. This time, we're going to discuss something that has existed almost since the very beginning of YouTube itself: family vloggers. At first glance, family channels seem harmless. Parents record birthdays, funny moments, and everyday life. Millions of viewers watch children grow up on camera year after year, often feeling as if they personally know the family. But what happens when a child's entire life becomes content? One of the most disturbing examples is the story told in the documentary Devil in the Family: The Fall of Ruby Franke. For years, Ruby Franke presented herself as the perfect mother. Her channel, 8 Passengers, attracted millions of subscribers who watched what appeared to be a normal family living a normal life. But in 2023, the illusion finally collapsed. That year, one of Ruby's youngest sons escaped from a house and ran to a neighbor asking for help. The neighbor immediately called emergency services. According to police reports, the boy appeared severely malnourished and had visible wounds on his body. Investigators uncovered evidence of extreme punishments, isolation, and abuse involving multiple children. Ruby Franke was arrested and later pleaded guilty to several counts of aggravated child abuse. Through interviews with family members, former friends, and people close to the case, documentary shows how the image presented on YouTube slowly drifted away from reality. Unfortunately, I believe that even today, there are dozens of family channels operating in a similar way behind the scenes, especially on TikTok. And if you're looking for a more recent documentary on the subject, I highly recommend Bad Influence: The Dark Side of Kidfluencing. The series explores the world of child influencers, social media fame, sponsorship deals, and the growing concerns about how children can become products in an industry worth millions of dollars. After watching both documentaries, you begin to realize that the problem isn't a single family or a single creator. The problem is an entire industry that has quietly emerged around turning childhood into content. Year after year, YouTube continues to be home to countless gurus, chosen ones, and different spiritual teachers who promise you simple answers to difficult questions. Some promised enlightenment, others promised true love, healing, or secret knowledge. A few eventually became the subjects of documentaries, police investigations, and international scandals. While the topic of internet gurus, cults, and cult-like communities deserves a video of its own, today we'll look at one of the largest channels associated with this phenomenon, Teal Swan. Unlike many spiritual influencers, Teal Swan didn't build her audience around wealth, success, or motivation. Instead, she focused on people struggling with depression, anxiety, trauma, loneliness, and emotional pain. Her videos promised healing, self-discovery, and a deeper understanding of why people suffer in the first place. According to Teal, she possessed some kind of powers or extraordinary abilities that allowed her to understand emotional wounds on a level most people could not.
You're going to have an issue with that. One thing I would ask you is, how is it that I have the information that I have at 26, 29, 30, and now 33? How do I have all this information? It's because I'm extrasensory. I'm not limited to this dimension.
Her channel eventually grew into something much larger than YouTube videos. And very soon, Teal built an entire community known as the Teal Tribe. Followers bought books, attended retreats, and paid thousands of dollars for workshops. Some events reportedly cost several $1,000s per person. At the center of her teachings was something called the completion process. Followers were encouraged not only to remember traumatic childhood experiences, but to relive them in vivid detail. Former members later described some of these sessions as unsettling and, in certain cases, potentially dangerous for emotionally vulnerable people seeking help. Former followers claimed that members of Teal's inner circle were expected to place her needs above their own. According to The Deep End, a documentary series that explores the movement surrounding Teal Swan, some dedicated followers were expected to be available to Teal 24/7 if needed. Moreover, members of Teal's inner circle were reportedly required to sign non-disclosure agreements and a set of non-negotiable rules governing their behavior within the community. The documentary also explores allegations that some followers became increasingly isolated from friends and relatives while growing more dependent on Teal's guidance. Yet, despite the controversy, the Teal Tribe still exists today, and Teal's YouTube channel continues to attract new followers. Teal has also released numerous videos on her channel criticizing the documentary and calling it propaganda. In my opinion, the film presents the situation in a fairly straightforward manner. Unfortunately, YouTube rarely intervenes in communities like these. After all, on the surface, many of these channels appear to promote nothing more than healing, self-improvement, and positivity. What happens behind the scenes is often far more difficult to see. According to multiple studies, something unusual has happened over the past few decades. For most of the 20th century, IQ scores were steadily increasing across many countries, a phenomenon known as the Flynn effect. However, researchers have since found evidence that this trend has slowed, stagnated, or even reversed in a number of developed countries. In other words, despite all our technological progress, humanity may slowly be getting dumber. No one fully agrees on why this is happening. Researchers have proposed everything from changes in education and reading habits to increased screen time and digital distractions. And whether those studies are completely right or completely wrong, one thing is difficult to ignore. Children today consume more algorithm-driven content than any generation in human history. Let's talk about what millions of children are watching on YouTube today. AI-generated content that often contains unsettling scenes capable of disturbing even some adult viewers. The most disturbing part is that children rarely search for this content. The algorithm delivers it directly to them. One click leads to another, and before long, the algorithm begins feeding them an endless stream of AI-generated content that becomes stranger with every recommendation. The most disturbing part is that children rarely search for this content. The algorithm delivers it directly to them. One click leads to another, and before long, the algorithm begins feeding them an endless stream of AI-generated content that becomes stranger with every recommendation. Humans turn into insects, characters mutate into spiders, worms, and other bizarre creatures. It feels less like children's entertainment and more like a hallucination inspired by an AI-generated version of Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis. Moreover, it is all strangely similar to the long-forgotten Elsagate phenomenon. In many modern AI-generated videos, including some from massive channels, we can see medical injections, characters being injured or killed, people turning into bizarre insects, rivers of brightly colored blood disguised as syrup, and countless other scenes that range from strange to genuinely disturbing. If we look back, we'll realize that every generation had its own strange children's shows. Programs like Teletubbies were often criticized for being bizarre, confusing, or unsettling. The difference is that those shows were built around stories, characters, and episodes that lasted for 20 or 30 minutes. Modern AI content is different. Even when it isn't a short format, it is often built around the same principles: constant stimulation, rapid scene changes, bright colors, loud sounds, and an endless stream of bizarre events designed to hold a child's attention for as long as possible. Where all of this will lead future generations, we can only guess. I'd like to believe that today's children will eventually adapt to this new digital environment, just as previous generations adapted to television, video games, and the internet. But when an algorithm learns how to hold a child's attention better than any teacher, parent, or book ever could, it is difficult not to wonder what the long-term consequences might be. Animals have always been one of the most popular categories on YouTube. Many people who are new to the platform, or simply spend little time online, often gravitate toward animal content first. Unfortunately, alongside wholesome videos, there has long existed a darker side of the internet. People who derive entertainment from the suffering of animals. Today, we already talked about fake animal rescue content. In a previous video, we discussed the documentary Don't F with Cats and the cruelty shown there. Today, however, we're going to look at something even more disturbing, a phenomenon that remains active in 2026 and is commonly known as monkey hate. If you've never heard of it before, here's a simple definition from Wikipedia. Monkey hate is a form of zoo sadism in which people take pleasure in the suffering of monkeys. The monkey hate community exists across the internet, from Facebook and TikTok to private groups and forums. However, when a platform capable of removing videos for far less serious violations struggles to eliminate content like this, it raises obvious questions. Even today, searching terms such as million pity and million sadness can still lead you to deeply disturbing videos. According to a study conducted between September 2021 and May 2023, videos featuring pet macaques accumulated more than 12 billion views online. Researchers found that roughly 12% of the analyzed content involved deliberate physical torture, 13% involved psychological abuse, and nearly 60% contained some form of direct physical mistreatment. Many of these videos appeared harmless at first glance. But behind cute thumbnails and innocent titles, viewers could often find monkeys being harassed, injured, neglected, or deliberately placed in distressing situations for entertainment. One of the many examples is a channel called Asian Monkey, which is still active today. Since 2016, the channel has uploaded more than 380 videos, many of which revolve around negative portrayals of monkeys and open hostility toward them, often showing the bodies of dead monkeys as part of the content. While the creator may not directly participate in abuse, the videos often appear designed to provoke contempt, mockery, and hatred toward the animals. On his channel, he regularly uploads videos featuring disturbing footage of monkeys' their unalived bodies and presents them with titles and thumbnails seemingly designed to encourage viewers to mock, celebrate, or enjoy the animal's suffering. The comment sections only reinforce why people are watching this content in the first place. You'll different users worldwide wishing harm on the animals, laughing at their injuries, celebrating their suffering, or suggesting that even worse things should happen to them. Unfortunately, this pattern repeats itself across countless similar channels. Sometimes the abuse may not even appear on camera. Other times it is shown quite openly, yet somehow manages to slip past YouTube's moderation systems, as in the video you're looking at right now. After a while, it begins to feel less like animal content and more like propaganda designed to encourage hatred. In many ways, that is exactly what channels like Asian Monkey appear to be doing. You might assume that this type of content is primarily consumed in countries where monkeys are considered pests. Surprisingly, that doesn't appear to be the case. According to various investigations, a significant portion of the audience comes from developed countries, which is one of the reasons this content remains profitable. I could show you dozens of other channels and hundreds of other videos, but they all revolve around the same idea: direct or indirect hatred toward monkeys. As disturbing as this is, things become even darker on private forums and communities outside of YouTube. But, at the very least, YouTube should be able to completely remove this type of content from its own platform. Unlike everything else we discussed today, this content is built almost entirely around a single idea: hatred. And that is precisely why monkey hate remains one of the darkest and most disturbing corners of YouTube in 2026. So, let's quickly summarize what we've seen today. Whether it's AI-generated content aimed at children, monkey hate communities, or the countless other rabbit holes hidden across the platform, they all have one thing in common: they exist because someone is watching. To YouTube's credit, by 2026, the platform has cleaned up many of the horrors that once thrived here. However, the issues we've discussed today remain very much alive. As a small creator, I would simply like to see the rules applied equally to everyone. After all, almost every upload feels like a battle against demonetization, age restrictions, and a seemingly endless list of policies. Still, despite everything, YouTube remains one of the greatest platforms ever created. It can teach you almost anything, connect you with people across the world, and give anyone a voice. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about any of the topics we've discussed today. And of course, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care, and see you in the next one.